All right, today we are diving into a book that honestly completely changed the game for anyone building something new. I'm talking about The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And this whole thing was born from failure, a really painful realization that set everything in motion. You can almost feel this quote, right? It's the sound of a startup dream just dying. Eric Ries and his team, they did everything you're supposed to do. They had a brilliant idea, a great product, they worked incredibly hard. But it didn't matter. They failed. And that gut-wrenching experience, that's what forced him to ask the one question that would change absolutely everything. So what was that discovery? What's the real startup killer? It isn't a bad product, not really. It's the incredible, massive waste. All that time, all that money, all that passion poured into building something that, in the end, nobody actually wants. The Lean Startup is basically his playbook for making sure that never happens to you. Okay, so how do you avoid that fate? Well, he came up with this really radical idea. He thought, what if we could stop treating entrepreneurship like some kind of mysterious art and start treating it more like a science? What if there was a repeatable method to all this madness, a way to navigate the absolute chaos of building something from scratch? First things first, the book completely redefines what a startup even is. It's not about the size of your company or, whether you're working out of a garage. It all comes down to one single phrase: extreme uncertainty. Think about it. If you're building something new and you have absolutely no idea if anyone will want it or if it will succeed, guess what? You're a startup. Doesn't matter if you're two people in a basement or a small team inside a huge corporation. And at the very heart of this whole methodology is this simple but incredibly powerful feedback loop. It's the engine that drives everything. Build, measure, learn. It works like this. You build a really basic version of your idea. Then you measure how real customers respond to it. And finally, you learn from that data, which helps you decide, are we on the right track or do we need to change course? It's a cycle, and its only goal is to find the truth as fast as humanly possible. Okay, so let's dig into that first step, build. The key here, and this is a big one, is to forget about perfection. Seriously, your one and only goal at this stage is to build something, anything, that lets you start learning from actual customers, and to do it fast. But that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, building out your full, glorious vision, that could take years, it could take a fortune, and you could do all that work just to find out it's a total flop. So how do you figure out what people really want without, betting the entire farm on it? Well, the Lean Startup has a brilliant answer for that. And that answer is the minimum viable products, or MVP. You've probably heard this term. So think about the old way. You'd go into a cave for a year, build this perfect product in secret, and then have this huge, risky launch. The lean way is the total opposite. You build the absolute smallest, simplest thing you possibly can, just enough to start testing your biggest assumptions with real people. The key isn't that it's minimal, it's that it's viable enough to start learning. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. These are real companies. Groupon? It started as a simple WordPress blog where they manually posted deals and emailed out PDFs. Food on the Table? The CEO literally personally created and delivered shopping lists to his one first customer. And maybe my favorite, Dropbox. They launched with just a simple demo video explaining what the product would do, way before the complex tech was even built. It just proves the point. An MVP isn't about perfect code. It's about getting real feedback. Okay, so you've done it. You built your MVP, you've got some people using it. Awesome. Now we're in the measure phase of our loop. But listen up, because this is where things can get really tricky. If you measure the wrong things, the data can lie to you and send you completely off course. So Ries makes this super important distinction between two types of data. First, you've got vanity metrics. These are the ones that look amazing on a chart. Things like total registered users or total downloads. They make you feel good, right? The line always goes up and to the right. But the problem is they don't actually tell you anything useful about what you should do next. Then you have actionable metrics. These show clear cause and effect. Think conversion rates for a specific group of users, or how many people stick around week after week. These are the numbers that help you make real, smart decisions. And this all leads to a really powerful shift in your mindset. Your job as a founder isn't just to ship a bunch of features. It's to achieve what Ries calls validated learning. Now, that sounds a little academic, but all it means is this: using hard data to prove that you're actually learning how to solve your customer's problem and build a sustainable business. True progress isn't measured by how much code you write. It's measured by how much you learn. Which brings us right to the final and maybe the most critical part of the loop: learn. Okay, so you've got the data from your MVP, you've been measuring what matters. Now, you face what is probably the single hardest decision any founder has to make. The decision is, do you persevere on the current path or do you pivot? Now, a pivot isn't just some small change. We're talking a structured, major course correction. But, and this is so important, it is not a failure. In the lean startup world, a pivot is actually a sign of intelligence. It means you were brave enough to learn that your first idea was flawed, and you're smart enough to use that new knowledge to find an even better path forward. So, how do you know if your pivot was the right call? Well, a successful pivot kind of feels like you were stuck in the wrong gear and you finally shifted into the right one. All of a sudden, your experiments start working better. Those actionable metrics start to really improve. You can actually see in the data that your new strategy is clicking. It's working. And guess what that pivot does? It throws you right back to the beginning of the build, measure, learn loop. But here's the beautiful part. You're not starting from scratch, not even close. You're starting over, sure, but this time you're so much smarter. You're armed with validated learning, and you're that much closer to building something people will actually use and love. So here's the big takeaway from all this. The Lean Startup isn't just a book for tech founders. It's really a mindset for anyone, anywhere, who's trying to build something new in the face of uncertainty. It's all about replacing guesswork, the I think statements, with real knowledge, the I know statements, by running real tests. So I'll leave you with this one question. What is the single biggest, scariest assumption you're making about your idea? And what's the absolute smallest, fastest, cheapest way you could test it? Maybe even this week.